really good. I was impressed.
She loves doing art projects.
So you need this printed?
Yes. So I'm just gonna be in the background here if you want to keep one ear out. So remember I mentioned the wedging. So you just use the heel of your hand when you've got a ball of clay. Just kind of knead it a little bit. A couple times is fine for this use. If you were throwing and you had a big ball, I'd say, you know, wedge for like a minute. But this is pretty mixed pretty well already. Then you're just going to kind of start your slab shape, or you can even like tear this in half because you're not going to need all that. And just kind of physically like start your slab, and then you use your rolling pin. And this is for your base, so you kind of have an idea of what shape you're doing. You're just going to roll and then stop and flip, or else it'll stick. Roll, and then you can rotate so it doesn't get super long. Roll the other way.
Like rolling out a pie crust.
Exactly. And
How thick or thin do we need to keep it?
I feel like potters have
Good
strong
question.
arms.
yeah, it takes a lot of physical strength, especially if you're throwing. So to answer the thick or thin question, this is about as thin as I would go. This is a pretty like advanced thinness. I think all y'all could handle this thinness though. You know, for like a child, I would say go thicker because they're rougher with it, but just, you know, baby it for the first few coils as it's not dry, and you'll be fine with this thinness.
Should we remove rings, and does it gunk up stuff pretty bad?
It gunks it up. You can wash it with water though. It doesn't stain or anything. You'll have like dust on you. You can get it off with water. But yeah, as far as the thick or thinness, you can kind of feel one of these mugs if you want. Let's see.
I'm so excited about, like, ridiculously excited about making my own mug.
Yay!
And like, you know, I'd like to have it. Can we
so
have
many
it thinner
mugs.
at the
That's
top?
funny.
I mean,
Yes,
okay.
and I actually, like, if you don't mind, you know, the little bit of extra effort and work to make it thinner, I would say try for thinner, because
Okay,
the
yeah.
thinner is more fine, and
Yeah, a
you'll
little easier to
enjoy
drink.
like drinking out
That's
of
what
it
I
more.
wanna make a blend
It's
I
a
really
little
enjoy
bit,
holding.
yeah, it's a little harder,
Yeah.
you know, just to finesse it, because when you're scraping to smooth it, you're losing some of that width. So
Okay.
that's why it's a little trickier, but nothing you can't handle.
Okay.
So once you have your slab rolled and you're sure it's not stuck to the table, you can take your metal rib or your rubber rib, but I like the metal for this. This is pretty smooth, but you might have like more irregularity. And you can, remember, like hold it like this with your thumb kind of holding the bottom, and then you're just going to bend it a little so the curved edge is here, and you can just scrape it across that flat surface and it'll get it like really perfect. You can also do that, you know, on a big slab if you're doing a platter before you cut it, or even on the side of your pot. So that's just a smoothing technique. Then I have some circle templates if you want a perfect circle, like, you know, it's just jar lids and stuff, or you can just freehand it. And remember, it doesn't have to be a circle, it's whatever your idea is. So you just go ahead and cut it out. You can use either the needle tool or you can use that knife tool. And you can, you know, fix it up however you want. And then you can just cut this excess and lift it off.
It's so magical.
Yeah. And then whenever you have little burrs like this, you know, these are not a big deal, but just FYI, you can always smooth them with your fingertip with a little bit of slip on it. So I'm going to make myself a little pile of slip. Bottle is clogged. Gotta work on it.
Figure out what to do with the head. Rest it inside.
So make myself a little pile, and then I can dip my fingertip in slip and then use it as a smoothing tool.
Is that really light pressure to just
Yeah,
kinda-
just light pressure, just finesse it a little bit so that the edges get perfect. And this is like an extra step, you know, if you know, want it to be perfect. It's not mandatory, but it's like extra craftsmanship. And this goes for any surface or any little burr or irregularity. Just don't like get too excited with the slip and like coat the whole thing, because then it won't harden for strength. So if you're like lathering your pot with slip, it's gonna be super wet and hard to keep building.
Okay.
All right, so you've got your base. Then you can prep some coils. So coil rolling takes a little practice, but you will totally get it. So I start my coil with a handful of clay like this, and I just kind of squeeze it to start the shape. And then the trick to coil rolling is using your whole hand. So you don't want to use this motion because you're more likely to push straight down, which is going to make a flat coil.
Right.
So if that does happen, which it will happen, you'll get some flat coils, just put it on the other end, push down, so that way the width is regular again, and then you can round it out again. But to avoid that, go out with your motion and use your whole hand. And many potters stand up to do their coils so that they're forced to use their whole arm. And you want to like be one with the coil and feel like
This is your ghost moment, ladies.
kind of a zen thing. You feel like where it's thicker and you use a little bit more pressure until you get a regular shape. Now this width here is probably intermediate to beginner. If you want to try for a little bit more challenge, then go a little smaller so you get a finer wall width, but it's a little trickier to work with. So you can see that this pot was a little bit more advanced versus, well, this one's kind of advanced too. See how small these are? And unfortunately, like, these are all smooth, but you know, bigger, thicker coil is easier to use. Here, you can see the inside, they never smoothed.
Oh, yeah.
See how kind of chunky it is?
Should you
And you can
smooth the
feel
inside?
the weight. Yes.
Okay.
You should. This is not perfect. So you can see that usually you want the inside to be as close to the outside as you can.
What if that was just an artistic choice?
If it's an artistic choice, then you want to make it perfect. So you go over these with a pencil, you make sure they're as regular as you can. And I was saying earlier that exposed coil like this is actually harder because you're working and you're having to keep these perfect.
Oh yeah, that does look difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
So
Yeah, that was pretty.
again, like, I wouldn't go too much thinner than this. Like if you are working in porcelain and you are like an advanced potter, hand builder, you could go as small as this. But this is like super tricky because you're scraping and using some of that width.
Okay.
So this
We're
is
talking like pinky width is
Yeah.
what we're looking for.
yeah, this right here is getting more towards advanced. So no smaller than this.
Baby snake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good width right there. So then we go, and you can prepare like 2 or 3 coils at a time, but don't make like a huge pile because they'll dry out.
Okay.
I have seen like people make like 10 at a time and do like a quick lathering
Yeah.
of slip, so that way they don't dry out, and when you go to bend them, they don't crack. Just don't make like a huge pile because they'll just dry out.
So if they do start to crack, can you put some slip on it to kind of
You can.
moisturize?
Mm-hmm. But remember, that's only going to be like on the surface. So if they're really getting dry, like, it's hard to bring them back without like re-wedging and re-wetting them down.
Okay.
So you've got your base. Now, who remembers how we connect?
With the little lines
Slip,
and the
make it
slip.
rough.
And we
Score.
score. Good. So we're going to be attaching this coil around the perimeter. And this goes for like wherever you're attaching your coil. Like, it might not necessarily be a circle shape. It might be whatever, organic shape. But wherever your coil is about to lay, you're going to do some cross hatching. So you can either kind of do X's, or I will go all the way around one direction. Take your time just a little bit more than I am rushing, just a little bit. And you want them to be dense and deep, but not too deep. Like, you don't want to gouge your pot. but you don't want it to be a little wimpy scratch either. And then I just go back the other way real quick. So you just want to make X's. And that's a good score right there. And then you're going to apply your slip, either with the squeezy bottle, I think that was the clogged one, like this, or you can use a brush dipped in slip, or you can use your finger. And you want to use about this much, a generous amount,
Like
but not
glue.
like blobbing. Yeah, like glue. So it looks like that. Then you're going to take your coil and you're going to push it firmly down, and you know that you've gone firmly enough when it squeezes out a little. So I'm not really distorting my pot. I'm not like pushing down so hard that it messes up the shape, but I'm also like making sure the coil isn't going to pop off. Now, what happens when I get to this? Well, you can either cut it, or more usual, people just keep going and push down to make sure that that little hole is full, and just keep building. Now notice how I set my coils right on top. So that's if I want a cylinder, which you want to do at least your first coil like that as like a base. But if I want to start flaring out or flaring in, what do I do?
Then you put a little on the outside or a little on
Yeah,
the inside.
so, let me roll another coil real quick. So anything you do flare out or in, of course, you're going to do gradually, because any horizontal building is going to have gravity fighting against it. So you're going to do a little bit at a time, because you can physically manipulate your pot a little after you've built some, but if you're like suddenly like this, then it's just going to want to collapse. So it's better to like manipulate a little bit and build slowly than to try to like do it all at once with your coils. And you want your coils to try to be about the same diameter too. So I'm trying to match my diameter a little. So got my next coil. So I just keep going where I left off. And if I wanted to start flaring out, instead of putting it right on top like this, I'm just going to roll it out slightly with my placement. If I want it to start flaring in, I choke it in a little. So, and then the next coil, if I wanted it to keep flaring out, I do a little bit more. So if I want, a flare a little bit more than this, I can manipulate it a little bit later, not too much, because you don't want it to like ruin the structural integrity, but like, don't feel like if you want this flare that you have to build it all the way out there, do it a little bit more gradually. And then once you have a little bit more structure, you can gently manipulate it to be the perfect flare, if that makes sense. So you're just gonna push firmly down, make sure every coil you put on is kind of firmly down. And notice, did I stop and score and slip?
No, not yet.
No. About how many coils can I do?
Four.
Yeah, 4 or 5. And it doesn't hurt to score. So don't feel like you can't score if you think there's a weak spot, or you're about to flare out, so you want to make sure it's strong. It's like strong spots up your pot. So you can score after every coil if you want, but it's not necessary. So I'm going to build one more big coil. And I'm just going to keep building here. And if you have like a little skinny end or imperfection, you can just pinch it off. Going. I'm going to start flaring out a little just to show you.
Now, if you have slightly different sizes, in the end, will it matter as much if you end up doing the smoothing part?
Yeah, it won't matter too much if they're close.
Okay.
It's just like you don't want to do a super thick one over a skinny one, because it'll just be a big bump already that you'll have to fight against. All right, so then
Little kid
we've got 4 coils. I could probably do one more, but just to jump ahead and show you, then you can gently pick up your pot, or you can do it, leaning over, whatever you're comfortable with. And once you get more, and if it's more fragile, you might not be able to pick it up, but at this point you can. You're going to use your wooden tool that looks like a spoon on one side, and you can hold it with your index or your thumb. You're going to be changing that according to what's comfortable, and you're going to support one side, and then you're going to scrape the extra roundness of the coils into the cracks. So sometimes you're going to go up and down, sometimes you're going to go left to right, whatever you feel like it needs at that moment. The trickiest part is that you want to have some kind of support on the opposite side. So if you're doing the inside, you're kind of cupping the outside while you scrape. You can do this on the table too. You don't have to pick it up. Or if you're doing the outside, you're kind of supporting the inside at least a little bit. And it can warp a teeny bit, and then go back to normal. And you'll kind of feel what it can take while you're working. But if you see here, you can use your thumb a little bit as a finishing move. You see here, I've got a smooth spot. This should be everywhere and the inside before you keep building. Because the drier your coils get, the harder it is to smooth. So you want to get to at least this point before you keep going. Don't worry about these bumps, because you'll get those later. Okay. But get to the point where your cracks are filled in. You can use your thumb a little, but also notice that the width of my wall is still the same. So one common problem is people will get too happy with using their thumbs and fingers to smooth, and they will start pinching and thinning the wall. So not only will this distort your shape, it will also make it really hard to keep building, because now you've got a weak, thin wall to build your next coil onto. So just keep in mind that even though you're scraping, you're not losing width too much.
So it's a really light scrape.
It's a light scrape. You're just putting the extra roundness into the cracks.
So cool.
Yeah, and your inside you want to get to, especially that first crack between the base and that first coil. And you can kind of turn your tool as needed.
You love doing this.
I do, I love it.
Check out this one.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you'll get little extra burrs. Heck yeah. You get little extra burrs. You can scoot those into cracks that need it. And this is a really zen process. You'll enjoy it.
It's good and messy.
It looks
Yeah.
really satisfying.
Yeah.
It is.
This is up there with watercolor for you, isn't it?
I do. I love ceramics. I had a really amazing, inspirational ceramics instructor when I was in college. So I tried to be in her room as much as possible, and I learned a lot. So, and then I learned a lot doing it with high schoolers, because you're responsible for their pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they get super attached to them. So you want to know what's going on, and you try different options.
When I did ceramics in high school, they just put the fear of God in us. If you do this, it's going to explode. If you do that, it's going to explode. You're going to ruin your piece. You're going to ruin it.
Explode!
So I was just always freaked out that my project's going to blow up. How often do projects explode?
Not very often.
Not often.
I think you missed my little talk about exploding.
Yeah.
But the only thing that you have to worry about is trapped air.
Yeah.
So a compartment this piece, I was saying that if they hadn't put that hole in there, it was a hollow chunk.
Yeah.
So it just takes a little hole to let it escape. So it's just knowing that.
But not a tiny air bubble.
No, and there naturally going to be some air bubbles, and you'll run into them. Don't freak out, just pop it and move on.
Okay.
This kind of clay is already very well mixed, so you're not going to have too much of a problem.
Okay.
It's really malleable and really good clay, so.
So I can erase that.
You don't have to fear, and I've got your back. I'm gonna check it and make
Okay,
sure
her
it's
kiln.
good.
She doesn't want it exploding.
Yeah,
so.
and it's really not. I mean, you lose your pot, but
It
the
doesn't hurt anything.
It just
the
cracks,
bisque
doesn't it?
fire
Yeah.
is just a matter of picking up the pieces. But a glaze fire, those little shards would stick wherever they.
Oh.
But it's rare for something to explode in a glaze fire because it's already been fired, so air bubbles wouldn't be an issue. The only thing that could cause something to explode in the glaze fire is if it was too thick. Like I've seen people try to fire a wall that's like that thick and just can't take it. And it
Yeah.
heats up and shrinks. It shrinks 15% total. So once you got it, to this level of smoothness, you see it's not perfect, but there's more finishing moves later for when it gets a little bit more dry. So you get to this point, then what do you do if you want to keep building?
Score.
Yeah.
Bingo. So you're gonna do just like you did on the base, except for on this top coil. So you're gonna score all the way around, 2 directions, pretend like I did that all the way around, and then slip, and then your next coil. So when you're working in a class, you want to get to this point before you put it away for the day. You don't want to have exposed coils left. So just make sure you do at least a quick preliminary smooth, because you don't want it to, we're going to put it in baggies and we're going to spray inside to keep the atmosphere moist. But if they're exposed coils, they just tend to dry out. It might be okay structurally, but it's going to be hard to smooth when you go to smooth it. And that's it. A couple things about the tools. There's this like round blade. There's the regular like X-Acto. This can be used to cut out. And then this is great for like getting that kind of motion for little shards, especially on your rim when you're all done. These are just miscellaneous smoothing tools, wooden tools. When this gets leather hard and it's bigger, you're not going to be able to really appreciate it now because it's wet, so it's sticking. But when it's leather hard, you can get these last bumps out very easily, and it makes it's really nice regular texture. And I showed you the ribs, metal rib, and then the rubber rib is good at that leather hard point. You can even like put a little bit of slip on this rim. Remember, not too much because you don't want to get slip happy, but if you use like a little bit on the rim, when it's leather hard, you can use this to even get it really smooth. And of course, this is only if it's a big flat surface. If it's like got crazy sculptures and stuff, you can't, do that. Am I forgetting anything?
I love
That's about it.
blades here. That will come in handy.
Yeah. So that's texture, and then these are different embellishment techniques.
I love that you've made all of those.
Yeah.
Those make me so like, that's awesome.
Just make sure you screw the lids back on the glaze.
Yeah.
Did that
But
not
she went to
happen? No, it
shake
didn't
it,
happen.
and glaze went everywhere.
Oh no.
And there's the underglazes. So
Orange is so pretty.
you got to make that decision. Do I want to be able to do detail and like some of these crazy techniques, or do I want a more natural, irregular look? Like the nice thing about regular glaze is you get some of these crazy irregular, like beautiful, different. The glaze pulls more. Like it's got that glass, so it's actually molten in the kiln, moving around on the surface of your pot. That's why you get like irregular drips where it was thicker, and you'll have it pull. If you have any texture on your pot, like cracks, then it's going to be a different color in the cracks usually. So there's a lot of nice things about regular glaze too. But underglaze is a great option too.
I'll try to bring some of mine next week. The ones I
Your
made.
throne ones.
Yeah.
There's a couple. I have a ton of examples. Just look around.
What I'd like to learn to do.
This is like regular glaze, so you can get.
It's what? I love that look. The
Yeah, it's
mottled
so pretty.
kinda, yeah.
And it's
God, Ellie would
more.
love this.
It's more unpredictable, but that's part of the cool part.
Yeah.
I'll show you. Pam is my throwing instructor. She's a master thrower. So I have some of her bowls that I'm not giving back to her.
I know, I kind of want this bomb pot over here.
But you can see, like, I have a gold glaze.
Wow.
And you can see how thin her walls are because they're thrown. But yeah, look how beautiful. So if you like that look, go for a regular glaze. If you like the bright and the options to do some of that stuff, including the slip and the wax. You can do wax with regular glaze too, but it's not going to be that crisp.
I kind of like this one too. I like the colors of this one. The contrast to that one is nice. It's like a witch's pot or something.
Yeah, that is cool. All look nice with the glaze that she was showing us.
Oh, like the natural one?
I think I showed them this earlier, but this is sculptural and all underglaze. And the artist likes the matte look. So the underglaze is naturally matte. So all of these that you see have clear glaze over top. So this is actually only fired once. Because that's all I need.
Let me see that thing. So, that thing's gorgeous.
It's just fragile.
Who made that?
Caitlin Moore.
Oh. She's a senior now, right? Did you have
I'm
her
not
when
sure.
she was younger?
I actually
Did she
never
have a twin
had her.
sister?
I'm not sure. She just came to me at the end of last year, and well, she must have had Corbin because she was in my room. Like I saw
Yeah,
this in there, and then she said, like, I'm not gonna finish this to fire it, so I offered to fire it here. So she brought it to me in August.
I
All
remember
done.
you bringing it
Mhm.
in, yeah.
She hasn't picked it up yet. I'm like, take it to her.
Oh, if I see, she was in today. If it's the Caitlin Moore that I know.
She's kind of quiet.
Yes, yes.
Really like particular.
Yes, that's her. She's
Yeah.
she's a twin sister.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Uh-huh.
Screen wraps really Yeah, like I have her
both
number,
sides.
so I've texted her a couple times that it's here. She was like, okay. And then like her mom left a message. She's like,
It's some
when
things
can we
that
pick
way.
up her ceramic? I'm like, anytime. It's here. And then she's like,
Wow,
where are
she
you
made
keeping
that?
it? I'm like,
Holy
in a
cow.
safe place. It's fine.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's influences of Dali, Tim Burton, and Escher. So I'm like, are you sure you just don't need it?
Yeah, that's professional.
Yeah, and when you guys start doing little details, you'll see how hard it is to keep them without breaking off.
Wow.
Yeah.
The face is pretty.
I wouldn't have thought that
Yeah.
would come out of Caitlin Moore either.
Really?
Well, as quiet and meek and mild as she is, that's
Very expressive. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I shouted her out. I was like, this is one of the best pieces I've ever seen a high school student do.
I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, Caitlin Moore, you're the best.
If I see her tomorrow, I'll tell her I saw it.
Well, you guys are welcome to start your base in a couple coils if you want, or you can wait. It's totally up to you.
If we decide to put something inside,
Yes.
how do we go about doing that?
So you're just going to stop building while you can still reach.
Okay.
Because you want to clean this up to a level where you're happy with it, so that, like, if you get too tall, you won't be able to reach in there. So
Right.
just keep in mind, like, you want to attach it and clean before you get too high.
Do you attach the same way you attach the coils with the scoring
just going
and
and
the slip?
slipping. And then you just use like one of the smaller tools, and basically, like, if you're, building a handle, you're gonna score where it's gonna attach, and you can build the handle, hold it up, and I'll trace where it's touching, and then you'll know where to score. Same thing with a slab. If you made a goldfish, you can put it on here, trace it, take it off, then you know where to score. So you just score, and then put slip, and then pretend like this is a finely crafted handle.
It's beautiful.
That's what I'll be.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Okay.
I'll help you with this part because you want to get it on there firmly without distorting your finished pot. So once it's on there, then you use a smaller tool and you kind of grab a little extra. So sometimes I'll make the tip a little thicker than I want it so that I have a little to work with. And you're just smoothing the crack, just like you would a coil,
Yeah.
so that it's one continuous strong shape. And that's how you touch for anything.
Do you have to attach the bottom of the handle while it's still not too deep? Or do you just wait until you're completely done and hope and pray?
You can wait. I mean, like even if you can't reach the inside, you're gonna be able to smooth it.
Okay.
You know. But of course, you want to kind of have your final idea of what you're doing in mind the whole time. You know, just for like planning, and you know, you're gonna want to kind of get as finished as you can as you go, and then it'll be less work when you're trying to do like finishing touches. And you won't have to fight like a dry crack, you know, because you already took care of it. Because your bottom is going to be a lot drier than your top when you're working.
Right.
So you got to kind of go as you can. Of course, like when it's getting leather hard and you're doing your spoon and your rib, and you're actually using like a clay sponge at the very end for final last smoothing. So there's like 3 ways to do like finishing smoothing. Just get to this point. And then I can show you how to do handles and lids when we get to that.
Okay.
Because you can't put glaze under anywhere that it top touches either, if you want it to still open.
Right. Yeah.
So you can see this person just didn't glaze there at all. You can actually glaze inside here if you want, because it'll never touch. But anywhere that it would touch, and I'll show you how to do this little, it's basically just a coil flange. So that way it doesn't just slide off.
Right.
You know, you want it to catch a little bit. So if somebody picks it up, especially with a teapot, you want it to keep on there for a certain point. Yeah, I can show you how to do a handle, no problem.
So handles are all separate. You don't ever like build it in. You always stick it on.
Yeah, you usually stick it on, but if it's like a sculptural handle, then you could actually like build your coil out. Or like for a T-spout, you know, you don't like do a coil and hollow it, because that wouldn't work. You actually like build your spout with a coil out from the side of your pot like that, and then smooth it as you go. And then you just poke holes for the tea to go through, or the water to go through.
Okay, so I have a question about my concept.
Okay.
How tough this will be. So I don't have a reference.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
my imagination.
Okay. Tell me.
So I want to make like a Harry Potter theme and put Voldemort's
Love it already.
wand on
Yeah.
one side and Harry Potter's wand on the other side, and have the you know, this one spells red and the other's green, and they collide in the ends, and have that be the handle.
I love it.
So I'm guessing like I would want to sculpt the wands and have them kind of curve going inside, and then I could do like some kind of flowy design with the
Yeah, and then you can even use like slip if you wanted it to look like, you know, fluidy. You could also maybe reference the phoenix feathers somewhere. They're both from the same feather. Both from the same phoenix. So maybe you could have like a feather inside of it or coming out. Or, I don't know, just thinking out loud.
yeah.
They were both Harry's wands.
So do you think that's
Yeah,
feasible?
love it. Maybe just try to sketch your thoughts to get a visual.
I also found a really funny Harry Potter mug while I was thinking about this that said, "I have 99 problems, but a snitch ain't one."
That's
so
great.
I'll probably be ordering it for Amazon.
My favorite mug I ever got. I got one for Erin too, because she found it.